Hey guys, this is Allison from Alleycat Creations. How are you? Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you have yet to do so. If you get anything from my work, a connected an epiphany, a mind-blown moment, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please consider supporting my work. All the links are at the bottom of the video. My face is really shiny, I don't know why. Anywho. Up for grabs. Go check out Allylatcreations211.com. That's my website. I updated it. Got lots of cool ornaments. That just flipped at him. I have like a lot of cuts on my hand. Candles. This is Campfire Man Cave. Has gems in there. Smells quite delicious. Small periods, pyramids, medium, large, medium. Really good healing, EMF protection. Check it out. And some of these are discounted because they're not to my standards. I have high standards. The philosophy of war. Today we're going to read The War, or the Principle of Resistance. Should be very interesting. Quote, "It is only by the attractive force of the contrast that the two opposites, spirit and matter, can be cemented together on earth and smelt in the fire of self-conscious experience and suffering, find themselves wedded in eternity. This will reveal the meaning of many hereto incomprehensible allegories foolishly called fables." End quote. The Secret Doctrine, Blavatsky. As above, so below. It is an axiom in our cosmic soul science that there can be no manifestation without duality, no shadow without its reality. We're in it to win it right now with this. According to our cosmic philosophy, everything that manifests descends from above, its expression on earth being but the shadow or reflection of reality in the higher realms. Quote, St. Paul called our world the enigmatic mirror of pure truth. And St. Gregory of Nazianzen, never heard of that, corroborated Hermes by stating that things visible are but the shadow and delineation of things that we cannot see. All that is on earth, said the Lord Ormond, is the shadow of something that is in the superior spheres. It is eternal combination, and images are repeated from the higher rung of the ladder of being down to the lower mirror, disfiguring the image of the superior mirror. And we could step back and take a look also at the allegory of the cave, where you are in your shadow, you're seeing the shadows, you finally get out of that cave and you first look in the water, and what is that really looking at? A mirror. War, a shadow. The Zohar also holds strongly to the idea that everything manifested in the universe is the shadow of the eternal light or deity, separated by the prism of matter into its 7 rays, each with its dual principle of light and shadow. Of what then is war on earth? This shadow? Equilibrium disturbed. In the beginning of the universe, the first emanation from the absolute coming into manifestation necessarily had its positive and negative aspects or poles, spirit and substance. From the very dawn of the going forth of the manifested from out the bosom of the unmanifested, the state of perfect equilibrium was disturbed, and the mighty urge toward union and restoration of the primordial equilibrium came into manifestation. Cause of the war. It is the urge toward the restoration of the project to its source. The call of the spirit to matter, the Father to the Son, the heavenly man to the human, the higher self to the lower personality. That is the cause back of all war, all desire, hence back of all evolution. For only in a union with its cause can the cycle of necessity be ended, the desire be satisfied and become one with the will of the Father. The war ended and the evolution be completed. Principle of resistance. But the impelling force which caused the outgoing or downward arc of projection into manifestation naturally resists the indrawing power or upward arc of realization, which is necessary to complete the at-one-ment. This resistance to the uplifting, dematerializing, and indrawing force constitutes and is the basic principle back of all reflections, frictions, conflicts, or phases of the war. Spirit descends. In the physical world, the resistance is expressed as the war between spirit and matter. The resistance due to the density and inertia of matter to the unfoldment and expression of the spirit with the descent of the light. Spirit clothed itself in matter, not only that it might have expression, but that it might evolve up through matter, and by so doing, spiritualize it and return it to its primordial state. Lack of response. It is the inability of the lower vibrations of matter to respond to the higher vibrations of spirit that causes the resistance until, through the subliming and etherealizing process, which results from the friction thus engendered, matter becomes finer and more plastic and thus more responsive to the expressions of spirit. Overcoming resistance. Hence, in all cosmogonies, quote, there were many wars, all referring to the struggles of adjustment, spiritual, cosmical, and astronomical, but chiefly to the mysteries of the evolution of man as he is now, end quote. The point we wish to emphasize is that these types of war are all necessary factors in the overcoming of resistance, and in the adjustment must occur the close of any and every major cycle. Pause. Let this ring true. 45 keeps saying that we're so close to World War III. Whether you listen to him or not, I don't care. We're at the brink of treason to its highest extent. If you haven't started seeing it and opening up your eyes yet, the 45 said central casting to somebody from Australia in the audience the other day. So there is a lot of comms happening. There's a lot of undertow things taking place. I won't say we need. I think many of us are way beyond expanded past this point, but the majority of the whole are not. And this is what we're going to experience. Cosmic war. There are accounts of 3 distinct wars to be traced in almost every cosmogony. The first war happened in the night of time between the gods and the Asuras and lasted for a period of one divine year. Thus, the war began with the war in heaven, or the resistance of certain expressions of the Godhead to carrying out the divine will. Again, the resistance of the lower to the higher will. This is far more than merely an expression of the sun myth or the personification of the forces of nature. The war between light and darkness. Pause. I get this interpretation, but as I'm expanding and I'm seeing the world completely different at this moment in time, what I think we need to keep in mind is this is how God wanted to express itself through this experiment. This is an experiment. It has been dubbed that, and I don't doubt it, right? I don't doubt this. This is a huge experiment, and this is a huge experiment in duality and polarization. I think those wars were necessary. I brought out the channeling from Lucifer the other day to kind of bring to light that being is energy, like we all are, and trying to tell you I was playing a role as God. God wanted me to do this. So that you can learn and experience, to gain the wisdom, to gain the soul growth. And it's not just Lucifer that fell. There's a lot of other angels and archangels and other collectives that we dubbed fell, but we all fell out of source when we individuated to have an experience. And whether that be defiant, what you would want to say maybe the original sin, which is not a sin at all. God needed to have an experience. It got bored. Physics terminology, the everything happening in the quintessence needed to have a different expression. So it chose this. And we all chose it together. And we created this together. Something very hard to rack your brain around. But think about it. We created this universe. We created this experiment. We all together did. And we're all fractals of each other. We're fractals of source, and we're fractals of the higher density beings that are playing out the roles up here. All it is coming down. If you think about the time and hourglass analogy, I once in a while, put out. It's difficult because we're taking something that you can't prove, yet this is why the humans are still, I think, lagging in awareness and expansion. It's because we're so closed-minded. We've been indoctrinated not to think of things that exist but yet aren't seen in the reality, because you can't see it with your physical eyes. Start opening up your third eye. It'd be a start. Things will be a little clearer. Possibly. The sun myth. For the various versions of the sun myth are but allegories expressing the cosmic principle of the resistance of matter to the expression of spirit, whether it be represented by the Christian Michael, the angel of the sun, slaying the apocalyptic dragon, Horus, the Egyptian sun god, slaying Typhon, the dragon Apophis, Hercules strangling the python in his cradle, or Phobos, Apollo, the Greek Helios, the sun, the light and life of the world, and who at the moment of his birth asks for his bow to kill Python, the demon dragon. The eternal struggle. They all symbolize the eternal struggle for the light. Process and evolution, which constitutes the war between the light of wisdom and the darkness of ignorance, between unselfishness and selflessness, between the good of the whole and the ambition of the few, between civilization and barbarism, between the angel of peace and the dragon of material force embodied in militarism, between right and the might. In Gnostic texts, it is believed that it's not sin that is the most feared thing. It is ignorance. And they take more of a Gnostic stance in their writing. So I would say that makes perfect sense. Struggles for control. The second great phase of the war, as reflected in humanity, occurred after the creation of man, when the resistance set up by the desires of the lower animal man to the will of the higher was exemplified in the struggle which took place between the lunar and solar fathers. Creation of man. Cosmic philosophy teaches that the physical body or animal man was projected as a shadow or hologram, or was created by the hierarchy of the lunar fathers, but the man so created was but a human animal without intellect or the spark of self-consciousness. He had not yet become a living soul. As soon as the human animal had been perfected, the hierarchy of the solar fathers, called sons of mind, projected into that animal form a ray of themselves, which became the divine spark, the individual, immortal spiritual ego, or as the Bible puts it, they breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. Breath always being a symbol of spirit, and only then man becoming a living immortal soul. So if you go back to maybe possibly Dolores Cannon and the Law of One, they talk about the beginnings of third density, the Illum, and if you go to Ashyamadine, the caveman type aspect, did those have souls? I don't know. But in order for you to have a soul, as soon as conception happens, there is a ray of light because you are an illuminescent body. Your soul comes in and chooses the mom, the womb. And then your spirit goes up and down as you get acquainted with the spark that is within that vehicle that you are now tethered to. It's very, very, very touchy topic for most people. I only see these things because I am able to, when a woman is pregnant and I'm around them, I have to be physically around people to really pick up and see a lot of the energy. I'm not quite there yet. I have to have an energetic link to somebody. Any one of my coworkers or friends, family that I have picked up on, I could tell because I could see what's around them and the tethering that is linked within them. It's very interesting. But it's a side note, nonetheless. You could see and perceive and interpret how you would like here. Insert that there. Physical man, a product. Man was thus the product of two distinct lines of creative forces, a semi-terrestrial and a divine. Just as a mother brings forth, creates the terrestrial body of her child, yet has nothing to do with making it a living soul. The second phase, with the incarnating of the spirit and the lightning of the spark of self-consciousness in man, this second phase of the war began. Pause. So you started out in the highest octave of second density, moving into third, sub octave. And that was where you weren't really self-aware. You're just moving along as a Homo sapien, Neanderthal, whatever you want to, if you want to go on that paradigm. And then you start becoming more conscious of the choices that you're doing, the things that oh, don't touch the fire. Oh, I can't swim. I can't go in the ocean. The effort of the spiritual soul fathers through the incarnated ray of the spirit or the real man to control and guide the animal man to the end that he might willingly respond to the higher law or divine will. Instinct versus free will. The control of the lunar fathers have been through instinct and did not admit of the power of choice, while the control of the solar fathers was and is obtained through the free will choice of man, even though through his refusal to choose the higher guidance, he creates the suffering by which he learns the unwisdom of that choice. The struggle was brought about, therefore, by the resistance offered by the animal instincts and desires of the senses to voluntarily submitting to the uplifting and spiritualizing control of the divine will of the real man or Father in heaven. Resistance of intellect. In the mental world, the war manifests as the resistance of the intellect to the promptings of intuition. The temporary refusal of the head to obey the promptings of the heart. That's going on right now. Until the self-conscious stage of man was reached, the resistance was more or less passive, or the resistance of inertia. But with the dawn of free will and the power of choice, the resistance became active and the animal element of antagonism was added to the inertia. St. Paul's recognition. The light of self-consciousness and the development of the intellect were the direct result of the incarnating spirit's gradually evolving an adequate instrument by means of which it could relate itself in consciousness, their density, suboctave, to the conditions of material manifestation. Then it could express itself in such conditions as soon as the spark of divine mind burst into the flame of self-consciousness. The human animal thus awakened to itself. Like, I know thyself now. I understand the I in the self. Placed intellect upon the throne as the source of its highest guidance. Self-consciousness. St. Paul refers to this phase of the war when he says, when I would do good, follow the intuitions from the higher self. Behold, evil, or the desires of the lower man, is present with me. It is the war manifesting between higher and lower manas, or the resistance of the human or intellectual consciousness to the illumination and guidance of the divine. Jeez Louise. This is what's going on right now in the collective. We're expanding consciousness. The problem is not everybody in unison is doing it. We're all doing it individually. We're expanding, we're becoming more aware. More and more downloads and layers of your higher self are coming within you. That's your divine guidance. The God aspect is coming further and more inside of you. Some people are more aware of it than others. There are a lot of humanity that is still not there yet in the expansion component. They're just like, what? There's stuff going on, and we just don't know where to put our finger on it to make it solidified. We're in this stage right now, and it's very frustrating, by the way, because you just want to shake people up. And do you not see this? We want peace, but how can we have peace if you're not expanding consciously and being aware of thyself and come into balance and the willing servant? And this phase of the war will continue in man until, by the subliming and spiritualizing process due to the friction, suffering, engendered, the intellect will admit that it is but the creature and instrument until it becomes the willing servant of the real man or higher self. and translate the inspiration of the spirit into terms of human consciousness, which shall enable the human personality consciously to follow the divine guidance. This is where I'm at for the most part. I'm becoming and knowing thyself in a fuller sense. I don't think it'll happen in totality in the infinitude, but I know enough and I'm receiving enough information that I am imparting it on everybody in hopes that it clicks for some to start their journey. It's not easy. And as you're going through these changes, you will endure suffering. But that's just wisdom and experience. And then you're going to do the same thing for someone else. And then it's a ricochet effect. Man, the arbitrator. Of all creatures, man alone has within him both the higher mind and the embodied ray from the divine mind, and also the lower mind, which is synthesized by the animal soul and has its highest expression through intellect. Hence, man is the arbiter, for he can reach up and comprehend God, and also reach down into the animal conscious and comprehend the resistance of matter and views of arguments of the lower mind. Man's curses. By the creative power of his thought, he leaves the impress of his stage of evolution upon all the lower kingdoms. For just as the war in heaven was reflected in man, so has man reflected upon the lower kingdoms. The war that is going on within himself. So it is through man who has stamped the impression of his imperfections, the incomplete stage of his spiritual unfoldment upon animal, vegetable, and mineral as antagonism, hatred, disease, and death, that the curse has been fulfilled. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee. In the sweat, of the face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, his source. For out of it wasn't thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. End quote. Dust of the ground. Looking at the war as symbolized by the so-called curse with the eye of the spirit, we see that the curse contains a prophecy of the end of the war, the ultimate victory of the spiritual over the mere animal man. Only that which is made of cosmic dust or matter can be cursed by man's disobedience to the divine will. In other words, only that which man received from his lunar ancestors, his physical, astral, and desire bodies, can he be said to be made of dust, or the unredeemed matter of former world periods, which formed the chaos into which the spiritual light descended at the beginning of this cosmic day of evolution. Transmutation. Hence, the so-called curse may be turned into a blessing, since it assures us that ultimately all that is dust, matter, will be returned to its source at the end of the war, but with the results of man's higher spiritual understanding of the great mystery of transmutation or redemption impressed upon it. The curse also tells us in a few cryptic words that the cause of the war is the effort of spirit to redeem, literally buy back or return to its source, matter. Banana nuts. Plans of redemption. Perhaps the position of man in this great struggle can be better comprehended if we consider an earthly simile. In an earthly war, only one who has had experience on both sides, or who is so gifted that he can enter fully and understandingly into the point of view of both combatants, is fitted to become an arbiter. In the mighty war between spirit and matter, such man is an arbiter, for he can, if he will, reach up into spiritual consciousness and comprehend the divine plan of redemption, the power of the spiritual consciousness to uplift the animal consciousness. can grasp the reality of the transmuting power of the divine love, and understand that only through the reign of the heart can there be peace. For the intellect, when its dominance is insisted upon, can be prolong the war. That's divine neutrality. And that's the harder part. And a lot of people are not there yet. And I'm still fighting with it. And it's not fighting with it, it's finding the God within everything, number one, because some people are really, truly disastrous. And then it's, okay, they're reacting that way because they're not consciously aware. And now I have to give them grace and compassion. And that's not the easiest thing when people are trying to combat you. Because people have an ego and they think they know it all. And not to say that I do, I don't. But a lot of people just won't even open their minds to expand their consciousness. Just to even, my information might not be fake, phony, and false, but it might not be true and righteous. But that's up for somebody to decide in their heart space. But people just shut me down automatically without questioning. That's all I want people to do is question, because it's critical thinking that a lot of people lack. It's they're stuck in their doctrines, in their programming, in their expression of their lives, and they're not willing to move the mold just an incy bit further out to expand and to make it bigger and better. And again, you don't need to, got epoxy resin in my hair, fun times. You don't need to rush this process. I'm nowhere near the amplification where I would like to be, but it's a struggle. And it's not easy. Intellect and intuition. He can also make his intellect a powerful servant, which can descend into the most microscopic details of matter and understand the point of view and the cause for which the lower man fights. Through the light of intuition, he can ascend into the higher realms and grasp the macrocosm details of the grand plan and realize that through intellect alone, he can never correlate with the spirit of that which the intellect has discovered, the curse removed. Thus, from his position as arbiter, he can look down not only into the suffering, misery, and crime created by the resistance of the selfish animal desires, but can also see how only through the spirit of love and harmony and through obedience to the guidance of the spirit can man and nature be redeemed and the curse be removed. Victories of mind. The victories of the lower mind are precipitated in its home world, the physical consciousness, as mental and emotional storms, while the victories of the higher mind and accumulated in its home world as its so much added power of the spirit to manifest on earth, both for the individual, the race, and the planet. Legends. The war between the higher and lower selves therefore began when the child of the lunar fathers became also the child of the solar fathers. Hence, we find throughout all myth and allegory the frequent reference to wars between the sun gods and the moon gods, or between the priests of the sun and priests of the moon. And in the early races, the sun gods walked and talked with men. That is, through their divine incarnations as great spiritual teachers, the sun gods taught the intellectually infant humanity the principles of all arts, sciences, and philosophies. Many of these are today temporarily lost because of the present wave of materialism. Hermes Trismegistus, Enoch, just to name a few. Ra is one of those that came down to play gods. Some got it right, some got it wrong. Why Ra was channeling through Kala Ruckard? Because he and his social memory complex made some boo-boos. But not in ill intention, because people mistook their learnings and teachings. and used it for the negative polarized aspects. The masses unresponsive. Here we are, guys. The great mass of the race was unable to respond to that higher guidance except for a short time. Oh, geez. And there arose a division into two groups, the smaller of which still followed the divine teachers, and the larger of which followed the call of the sense gratification and selfishness represented by the priests of the moon god. As Officius Levi says, men grew weary of the light, took refuge in the shadow of bodily substance. The dream of the void, which is filled by God, soon appeared to be greater than God himself in their eyes, and thus hell was created. End quote. Whoa. That's a really good definition. I'm not going to lie. That's pretty damn good. Damn. The third phase. The third great phase of the war, therefore, manifested on Earth the terrible struggle which took place at the close of the fourth or Atlantean race between Rama, the first of the divine dynasty or solar kings of the early Aryan race, and Ravana, the leader of the sorcery-working Atlanteans. Cause of evolution. As the secret doctrine tells us, quote, with the fifth, our own race, the lunar solar worship divided the nations into distinct antagonistic camps. It led to the events described eons later in the Mahabharata war. Whether we take this in its historical aspect or as a legendary reference to the escape of the Aryans from Atlantis, as Moses leading the children of Israel out of Egypt, as the escape of the higher faculties from the bondage of the senses, or purely as an allegorical expression of the sun myth, in each instance, we have a leader who represents the divine dynasty or light, progress and evolution, the upward and indrawing power, which is the cause of all evolution, civilization, progress, and who always leads his followers in triumph over the hosts of opposition, which are inevitably swallowed up in the sea. Divine guidance. In the Bible account, this leader is called Moses, the lawgiver, while in the individual, those faculties which choose to follow the divine law become the chosen people. By following the divine guidance, they are led out of bondage of the senses and escape from the power of King Desire, represented by Pharaoh. But King Desire is loath to let them escape from him and pursues after them, only to be swallowed up in the rivers of the great sea, even as the hosts of Ravana were swallowed up by the sinking of Atlantis. War in the body. In the physical body, the war is expressed through certain storms of bodily inharmony, illness, or disaster which sweep over those who are endeavoring to follow the higher guidance and striving to live the life. When the ideal of a higher life is set up by the consciousness, it sounds a new and higher key note throughout the body. Those atoms which can respond, answer the call, and follow the new lawgiver, and are led out of bondage into freedom of a new cycle of expression of life. While in those atoms which belong wholly to the old dispensation, which have fulfilled their mission and are not sufficiently evolved to take on the higher vibration and enter the new cycle, the resistance to the higher call is so great that it brings on the war, in which they are vanquished and slaughtered out of the body through a cleansing catalysm of illness. This, while it leaves the body temporarily devastated and weak, has nevertheless cleared the field of opposition and prepared for the manifestation of a higher expression of life. War in the emotions. In the mental world, the outlet will be found through the emotions. The expression of these emotions becomes a storm, which sweeps away the control of those who open the door of their minds through irritation, impatience, anger, jealousy, envy, animal desires, and leaves them devastated, yet relived and ready in the next time of trial for an encounter which shall be more successful in proportion to the effort made to conquer in the past. Transmute in harmony. This, however, should not be made an excuse for giving away to emotional excitement of any kind, for a strong effort should always be made for control and peace. To transmute in harmony and turn its perverted forces into constructive and useful channels. But if a storm should gather and burst, he ready to set a higher standard and a greater degree of achievement in the period of reconstruction. We're not there yet, but we're soon to be. Initiation. The war is also reflected in the terrible struggles through which the candidate for mastery must pass during his initiation. The struggle of the Christ within to slay the dragon of self, the guardian angel to slay the dweller on the threshold. It is also exemplified in the resistance of humanity to a new or higher spiritual teachings, the misunderstanding, misrepresentation, condemnation, slander, persecution, final crucifixion, but ultimate triumph, through which every light bearer who comes to humanity has to pass. Law of adjustment. From the principles outlined above, it will be seen that the wars among nations, which ultimately make for enlightenment, civilization, freedom, the independence of each nation, and general advance of mankind, are not evidences of failure of civilization or the failure of the particular religion which prevails at the time. They are but skirmishes in the war, expressions of the cosmic law of adjustment called karma, by which that which is created by mankind must be faced and redeemed. That which is sown must be reaped. There must be periodic manifestations of the war as long as matter resists spirit. As long as barbarism resists civilization, civilization resists the brotherhood of nations. Industry resists cooperation. Materialism resists altruism and idealism. In short, as long as any phase of manifestation resists the call to progress by a higher power. The golden age. But the conflicts should grow fewer and fewer, and the periods of peace be more and more prolonged in each succeeding upward cry cycle, until the golden age of the seventh great race of man is reached, until we return again to rule of the divine kings, the sons of God, as the Bible calls them, among men, not as parents ruling over children, as in the beginning, but in elder brothers or senior partners, whose experience and wisdom we gladly accept and follow. The great lesson to be learned from the war is that it is a very real and personal issue with each awakened soul who has responded to the call of the divine and donned the armor of the Christ and become a soldier of the cross. Each soul is judged at the close of each cycle by the sum total of how much it has overcome, how much of the lower self it has illumined by a higher spiritual consciousness. Many of us are getting there, guys. Patience. The great lesson to be learned from the war is that it is a very real and personal issue with each awakened soul who has responded to the call of the divine and donned the armor of the Christ and became a soldier of the cross. Each soul is judged at the close of each life cycle by the sum total of how much it has overcome. I wanted to reread that because that is many of us. And you don't need to follow Christianity or Christ consciousness following and knowing thyself, knowing the divinity within, no matter what God you preach or pray to, you're still divine regardless. And we are becoming those soldiers. We are becoming the way showers by our actions, our words, our transmutations, projecting that out into the will, into the field for others to pick up and to take away from. How should they go about their everyday life, living in the divine consciousness, putting on that armor and fighting a war that's within and without? Where many of us are here. And this is the very sum total of what I am going through. It's not easy when everybody around you is on different spiritual paths. Let's just say that. Not that they're not awake or aware, it's just a lot of people are not coming into their heart space. They're not finding the divinity within. They're not seeing the divinity in others. That is like next level right there. It's to find the divinity in others. Seeing the God in other people. Recognizing the God in yourself. This is a very hard portion because people, regardless of their horrible acts, still have God acting within them. This is a lesson, and it's a tough one. It is not easy to go about your everyday life, and life will happen, and things are going to test you, and it's up to you to transmute the inharmony within, because it will project out into your material world. Real success. And strange as it may seem to some, the real evolution in man is gauged by how successfully he has fulfilled his mission as arbiter between spirit and matter. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Not really. Between the higher kingdoms and the lower, giving to each its rightful place, while he himself stands calm and unmoved in the midst of the war, confidently knowing the back of all the turmoil, in harmony and strife, are the everlasting arms of divine love, and that the true peace is ever hovering, like the breath of God over the seeming chaos. Sorry, guys, I am stiff. I'm glad I didn't go off on too many tangents. I wanted to, but I noticed that, especially this book, I can go off for hours. So I'm trying not to do that. I'm bringing the reins in today, but I wanted to just make the point that all of my videos last 3 months have really been sparked by this last chapter. And again, I'm reading this with you. I never read this book prior to it right in the moment now. So I have been saying very similar things in a lot of my videos, especially the Spirit Soul advice. This is not me plucking it out of my ass. This is me receiving divine inspired messaging, downloads. I am taking it in, and whatever is coming through to me, I am projecting it back out at you so people can expand, can find the God within, to go in their heart space and heal. The purging is happening. People are purging. People are sick. Not a lot of people are feeling horrible the last couple of days. I'm stuffy, but that's because I need a dehumidifier, but I can't put one because of my epoxy resin, which happens to be right over there. So it's a little dry down here, but this is a very unique timing of Spirit wanting me to read this today, is because this is where we're at. And when we're in the holiday season, whatever you celebrate, if you don't celebrate anything, that's okay too. But I tend to find the beauty and the magic of looking at Christmas lights, at gathering with family and feeling the warm, cozy, fuzzy side. And not everybody has a perfect family, guys. I don't mind spending holidays by myself, even though sometimes it does suck when I'm in the material form of myself. I'm like, wow, everybody gets to eat some good stuff, and I'm just sitting here with a hamburger or bowl of mac and cheese. Yeah, it's not good to sit in those negative mind frames. This year, I've taken a tremendous amount of thinking to say, should I decorate outside my house for the holidays? I don't see too many of the Christmas lights around this area that I'm in. And I think when I'm on a major road, I think when people pass by my house, especially children, that spark of inspiration and that magical feeling comes back. I want to bring joy to people. I want little children to feel the excitement and magic that I did when I was a little kid. We all need that. And it doesn't necessarily need to be those, Hallmark TV movies and how everything is like super clean and perfect. That's not reality, guys. It's not reality. And I could say right now that you don't need to bring anything to the table to have a fun, magical Christmas or a holiday, whatever you celebrate. I'm not discriminating here. This is a magical time. We need to reclaim this time, but in this time of now, the holidays is what stirs up a lot of pain and suffering in others. A lot of people feel lonely. A lot of people that lost loved ones. It's a reflection of grief. And these are the things that we need to overcome. My mother passed away 12/23, the day before Christmas Eve. That was a big blow because I had plans to have a great Christmas that year. It ended up being a lot of my life, in my entire life, changing. And at the moment, it sucked. A lot of people reflect on those things, but we need to transmute it to say, well, my mom's always with me. She never left. I know she's always with me. Smacking me on the head. What are you doing getting a firearm, Allison? We raised you better than that. Yeah, but are you gonna etherically show your body when someone tries to break in the house? You're not a ghost. You're not earthbound. Yeah. It's one of those, we need to make some transmutations. We need to purge, get it out of you. It's okay for a good cry. I don't care if you're male, female. I don't care if you're a kid to an elderly old person. Doesn't matter. Cry it out. Get it out of you. Grief is a beautiful thing. It shows how much you actually really truly cared about somebody. And sometimes there's a lot of regret in that feeling because you wish you would have expressed it while that person was alive. But guess what? They're next to you. They're a thought away. Seriously, you think of somebody that passed, their energy is attracted to you. And they will show you signs if you say, hey, can you drop me a sign that you're around? You just have to be aware of that sign. It could come in some stupid form that you're not aware of. It's, but it's good to know that they're always with us. At least for me, and that's my belief, and that's my interpretation of the things that I am seeing with my naked eye and bringing into my heart space. We need to reclaim these holidays, these times. We need to purge the things that no longer serve us out of us, get it out of you. Give it to a tree, cry and vent it out, write it a letter. Heal your wounds. Heal the grief. Your loved one doesn't want you to stay stuck in grief. They want you to live your life. They want to watch you enjoy your life. They're going to watch you stumble, and they're going to put the energy there to help you get unstumbled. It was a part of your plan. We all have plans, guys. You just have to be aware of your plan. And a lot of that stuff is still veiled for all of us. I still have a big veil over me. I'm quite unveiled. But the divine neutrality is not a joke. It is not easy to have to see the God in everything and be a way shower and have patience for people who are so stubborn, you want to choke them out. It is very frustrating, and it takes a lot of your energy away. So we got to transmute these things, these are little mini wars going on within us and around us and outside of us and inside of us and outside of us and inside of us. It's a back and forth pull. But this is a huge chapter. It really speaks on a lot of what I've been saying. A lot. So I hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I haven't done so already. I don't get many likes. I don't know why. It helps me so other people can find me. It's not necessarily me. It's the work. It's the message. I'm here to help as much as I possibly can. For how long, I don't know. I have to start looking for a job in January. This is a side job. This is not a consistent flow. But if you would like to support me and get a pyramid with a lot of goodies, this is a small one. I know there's a lot of reflection. This one has garnet, labradorite, amethyst, labradorite, copper, aluminum, silver, with a clear quartz in the middle. I got a bunch of these guys. I have different color combinations. The mediums, I usually put selenite, and in the middle there's shungite. And the cool thing, there's like a cool effect. It kind of mirrors at the bottom. So I work with a lot. I can customize. I also have paintings, candles, a whole bunch of stuff. Check out my website, AllyCatCreations211.com, and sending each and every one of you light, love, compassion, grace, protection, and shielding energy. Please be safe, be seen. I hope all of you have an amazing, fantastic start of your Friday to your weekend. And I hope to see you all in the next one.